For the first time, Javier leaves the Congress as president of Argentina, acclaimed by his supporters who came in large numbers. The ultra-liberal economist announces the beginning of a new era marked by privatization and budget cuts. Last January, the Argentine presidential elections brought to power a man who leaves no one indifferent. Javier, quirky economist and flamboyant speaker, is a libertarian who seduced the crowds with the promise of a radical rupture. Freeing Argentina from the chains of interventionism and the social state, which have long hampered decades of crisis, is the remedy he advocates for the country's economy. Its formula is simple: the absolute reign of the market, even if it means sacrificing certain acquired advantages or fundamental freedoms in passing. My garnered 56% of the voters' votes, attracting both those exhausted by years of economic stagnation and disillusioned young people. Yet his election also raises serious concerns. Argentines are wondering if they are witnessing the rebirth of their country or the beginnings of a new shipwreck. What exactly is his shock therapy, his famous omnibus plan, and after 5 months, what are the results? Let's immediately embark for Buenos Aires, 11,000 kilometers from here. Fasten your seatbelts. Remember to move and hydrate during the flight because it will last 14 hours. If you like our content, subscribe to our channel. Your comments and suggestions help us to improve and stay connected with our audience. Join us so you don't miss out on anything that makes Money Vision. Thank you all and welcome to Argentina. Milei the Brutal. He entered politics late, a turbulent child nicknamed the Fool or El Lu by his classmates. He first learned his weapons on the benches of Economics College in Buenos Aires before making his profession. Appointed chief economist of the Argentine branch of HSBC, he became known in the media from the mid-2010s. Invited on TV sets for his analyses, he is presented as the apostle of the law of the markets. Her outspokenness, her hairstyle, and her exuberant behavior fascinate as much as they criticize. He is already exposing his libertarian leanings, advocating a total disengagement from the state and the deregulation of the markets, convinced that no constraint should disturb their functioning. Welcomed like a Hollywood star, he strongly criticizes the Peronist policies inherited from the 40s and 50s under the presidency of Juan Perón, accusing the latter of having plunged the country into an endless crisis. Argentina in trouble. President Perón, unlike the libertarians, was an ardent defender of the welfare state. When he took over the reins of Argentina in 1946, the country's economy was doing quite well, being the largest in South America and the 9th world power, a position currently occupied by Brazil. This growth is based on abundant agricultural resources, making the country the leading exporter of cereals and beef. Perón has introduced many social reforms for a better distribution of wealth and to stimulate consumption and investment. Among these reforms are the right to retirement, the minimum wage, paid holidays, free university, as well as billions of pesos invested in education and health. These measures have led to an increase in life expectancy and literacy, as well as a reduction in inequalities. However, this massive distribution of public funds has led to a chronic deficit, high debt, and above all, inflation. Perón was deposed in 1955 during a coup d'etat, and the country entered a period of bloody political instability, with alternating civil and military governments. During this period, 17 presidents succeeded each other, compared to only 7 in France or the United States. With the election of Carlos Menem in 1983, Argentina regains political stability and can finally look to the future. Until 1998, there was talk of an Argentine miracle, with rapid economic growth, industrialization of the country, and an influx of foreign companies. However, the decision to link the value of the peso to that of the dollar in 1991 turned out to be a mistake. When the value of the dollar increased in the late 90s, Argentine exports slowed down abruptly, and the government restricted access to bank accounts to avoid a panic. This led to chaos. The employees could not receive their wages and took to the streets, causing looting and riots. This situation is known as the Great Crisis of 2001. The peso was devalued by 28% before parity with the dollar was completely abandoned the following year. In the meantime, Argentina has defaulted 3 times. Bank accounts have been frozen. The peso has lost 70% of its value, and half of Argentines have fallen below the poverty line. With the help of the international financial community, and in particular the IMF, the new government renegotiated the debt and managed to reduce it by 70%. The Kirchner presidents, both heirs of Juan Perón but adapted to the 2000s, have implemented nationalizations, massive social assistance plans, protectionist measures, and a strengthening of the role of the state to stimulate domestic demand and growth, but at the cost of a new surge of inflation. Between 2003 and 2007, growth was rapid, then it remained above 8% per year until 2015. From 2015 to 2019, Argentina elected a liberal president who tried to undo what the Peronists had done, but he failed. During the entire term of Mauricio Macri, growth fluctuated between +2.8% and 2.6%. In 2019, a new supporter of Peronism, Alberto Fernandez, a lawyer by training, was elected and declared that he wanted to tackle the country's debt, inflation, poverty, recession, and commercial and financial dependence. However, he could not do anything of all that he had planned, the health crisis having caused the economy to fall by 10% in 2020, the worst performance in all of America. The massive support plans have aggravated the public deficit, which has reached 8.5% of GDP, and the debt, which has come close to 100%. Inflation exceeded 36% in 2020. The poverty rate has increased, with now 42% of Argentines in a very precarious situation. All the progress recorded since the war has been erased. Despite the rebound of the economy in 2021, the purchasing power of Argentines continues to decline, with inflation reaching 50% in 2021, then 72% in 2022, and 128% in 2023. The debt was renegotiated and eased by about 15%, but despite this, the economy shrank by 1.5% in 2023. The rescue plan Javier Milei, a member of the Libertarian Party, witnesses the crisis in Argentina and decides to get more involved in politics. He is already president of his party and manages to qualify for the 2021 primaries. During his campaign, he proposed a bold and ambitious plan, and his very critical speeches, sometimes even insulting, towards the Fernandez government and the Peronist opposition galvanized the crowds who see in him the hope of an unprecedented solution. Milei proposes a total economic rupture and an overhaul of the political class, which he illustrates with a chainsaw. For him, Argentina is divided into 2 categories: the traditional politicians, the unions, and the media, who have a loaded gun, and the good Argentines, who dig in. Milei refuses to let the rest of the country dig for this political caste that he openly hates and that he even intends to crush. Even before his election, he declares that he wants to dollarize the economy and utters words that cause a panic and the collapse of the Argentine currency, the peso. He then presents his shock therapy, his omnibus law, during his inauguration speech on December 10, 2023, and warns of difficult months ahead. Milei wants the state to stop being an obese monster that hinders the freedom and prosperity of Argentines. It provides for cuts in the state budget of the equivalent of $20 billion or 5% of GDP, and removes ministries in a package of 10 to reduce the size of the government. He also wants to reduce the budget deficit to 0% this year, against 2.9% of GDP in 2023. And for this, it is necessary to reduce social assistance. The prices of essential products that were capped are no longer capped, energy and transport subsidies are abolished, free universities are abolished, and major public construction sites are frozen. Finally, Milei wants to return Argentina to the hands of the market god. Between December 10th and 28th, nearly 1,000 deregulation measures are proposed to facilitate trade and financial exchanges. The labor law is relaxed in favor of employers, and Milei devalues the peso by 50%. Since 2000, the Argentine currency has lost 99.89% of its value against the euro. To bring in money, the government wants to privatize about 40 of the largest public companies, including its oil company and its airline, in the hope of attracting as much foreign capital as possible. However, after the devaluation, inflation reaches the delusional level of 276% in February 2024, and wages do not keep up. Rents, unfastened for a month, are often paid in kind, and faced with shortages, evictions explode. 2.5 million Argentines plunged into poverty in February, and the poverty rate has now reached 57%. Faced with Milei's ambitious ultra-liberal reform plan, international authorities are revising their growth forecast from plus 2.8% to 2.8%. Milei is aware of this and tells the Wall Street Journal reporter that rebalancing Argentina will be hard and could take 2 years, but that the population's tolerance has limits, which he estimates at only 1 year. He doesn't have a plan B. On April 30th, his shock therapy was validated by the Argentine Senate in a slightly watered-down version. Some of the measures are already in place, but with what result? The first good news is that inflation is starting to slow down. Prices increased by about 20% between January and February, but only by 13.6% between February and March 2024. Another good sign is that public finances are recovering, with a balanced monthly budget for the first time in March. Foreign exchange reserves, which halved in 2023, are slowly replenishing and are expected to increase by 25% this year. However, the immense human cost of Milei's shock therapy should not be masked. While the indicators seem to be improving on paper and Argentina is selling to the highest bidder, the brutality of the adjustments has plunged millions of families into poverty and despair in mid-spring 2024. To conclude, Argentina, the 21st largest economy in the world, has decided to entrust its future to a man who represents a total break with everything it has known so far. Since the Perón era in the 40s and 50s, the country has experienced chronic instability, with boom periods followed by severe crises such as that of 2001. Rampant inflation, colossal debt, mass poverty, and some improvements that have never allowed to regain the prosperity of the early 20th century. The ultra-liberal shock therapy of the eccentric Javier Milei, presented as the miracle solution to get the country out of decades of crisis, has not yet produced all its effects and risks, aggravating the ills of a society already on its knees. However, Milei said, "We are not coming to persecute anyone. Our project is not a power project, it is a country project. See you at Christmas for a new assessment, and count on us to follow the events with the greatest attention until then." In the meantime, to pass the time in an intelligent way, we recommend Alan Parker's musical Evita, with Antonio Banderas and Madonna, which traces the romantic fate of the First Lady and wife of Juan Perón in song. We also suggest Juan Campanella's film released in 2019, In His Eyes, which looks back on the dark years of the military dictatorship between 1976 and 1983. What to have a good time while enriching your knowledge. If you like this video, don't forget to like and share it, and tell us what you think in the comments. Thank you all for your loyalty. Take care of yourself, and see you soon on Money Vision.